In the small village of Sandy Bay, Jamaica, tales of Duppy's malevolent spirits were whispered among the locals. None was more feared than the story of Miss Pearl, the midwife who dabbled in obeah, the island's forbidden magic. When she died under mysterious circumstances, her spirit was said to haunt the old mangrove swamp on the village's outskirts. One humid night, as the full moon cast eerie shadows through the dense foliage, young Marcus dared his friends to accompany him to the swamp. Eager to prove their bravery, they accepted. Armed with only a flickering lantern and their nerves of steel, they ventured into the heart of the swamp, the air thick with the scent of decaying vegetation. As they trudged deeper, the swamp seemed to close in around them. The chirping of crickets and the croaking of frogs suddenly ceased, replaced by an unsettling silence. Marcus, leading the way, held the lantern high, its feeble light barely piercing the darkness. "Do you hear that?" whispered Jade, her voice trembling. The others listened intently, and soon they too heard it, a soft, mournful humming like a lullaby sung off-key. The sound seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The group pressed on, the humming growing louder and more discordant. The air grew colder, and an unnatural chill ran down their spines. Marcus stopped abruptly. "Look," he said, pointing ahead. There, in a small clearing, stood a dilapidated wooden hut, its walls covered in moss and vines. The humming now seemed to emanate from the hut. With a mix of curiosity and fear, they approached, each step feeling heavier than the last. Marcus pushed open the creaking door, revealing a dimly lit interior. The smell of herbs and old wood filled their nostrils. In the center of the room stood an old rocking chair, swaying gently back and forth despite the absence of any wind. In the chair sat the spectral figure of Miss Pearl, her translucent form glowing with an ethereal light. Her eyes, empty and hollow, fixed on the intruders. "Welcome," she rasped, her voice like dried leaves rustling in the wind. "I've been expecting you." Paralyzed with fear, the friends could only watch as Miss Pearl rose from the chair, her form shifting and contorting. She raised a bony finger, pointing directly at Marcus. "You seek to mock me? To challenge the power of the Duppy?" The lantern flickered violently, and the room plunged into darkness. The air crackled with energy, and the friends felt a force pulling them apart. Screams echoed through the swamp as they scrambled to escape. In the chaos, Marcus felt icy fingers grip his wrist, dragging him back into the hut. The door slammed shut behind him, muffling his terrified cries. Outside, his friends stumbled through the swamp, eventually collapsing at the edge, gasping for breath. When they finally mustered the courage to return, the hut was gone, leaving no trace of Marcus or the encounter. To this day, the villagers of Sandy Bay warn against venturing into the swamp on moonlit nights. They say if you listen closely, you can still hear the mournful humming of Miss Pearl, and if you're not careful, you might just join Marcus in her eternal ghostly embrace.